back to Unsolicited Film Reviews. We are out of the world of Westeros and into award season. And not just any part of award season. This is the climax coming up because next week, well, actually 10 days from when we record, Sunday, March 15th, the Oscars are coming and hosted by Conan O'Brien again, as usual, from the Dolby Theater in Hollywood. And today we're going to do a full breakdown of all 23 categories in our next episode. But as we did last year, we're going to just power rank the top 10 Best Picture nominations from 10 to 1. We haven't revealed our lists to each other. And if you're familiar with the process, it's going to be a surprise for both of us because while we do line up in taste, a lot of times we throw each other for a loop from here and there. So it's a fun episode every year that we do here. Anything you want to add before we start getting into it?
No, let's get into it. Yeah, I'm curious to see what your list is. And I will say, just overall, I think it was a pretty strong year for movies. Like it was a pretty strong group of 10 overall. The ones near the end of my list, I didn't like obviously as much as the others. But compared to last year, I think this was a much stronger overall field for film.
Yeah,
So that's exciting.
yeah, definitely. And I went back and listened to a little bit of our last year's just so we could line up the same format. And yeah, we were both lamenting the weak field of last year, but much better this year.
Yeah.
So the 10 Best Picture nominations in an alphabetical order are Bugonia, F1, Frankenstein, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, The Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, Sinners, and Train Dreams. Variety of genres and
Yeah.
very different films all tied in there. So I guess I'll just start out with my number 10 film, the one that I enjoyed, but I don't think really belongs in this category, and that is F1.
Okay.
It's the sports movie with Brad Pitt, directed by Joseph Kosinski, stars Kerry Condon as well, among and cameos from all the drivers and all the team owners that are in Formula One. And it's about the sport that's been taking the world by storm, especially it's gained a real foothold here in North America now. It's always been huge in Europe, but it's really just become worldwide, especially with the Netflix series Drive to Survive. Anyway, it was a fun movie. It was a great summer popcorn movie, blockbuster type. But as far as Oscar fare, I don't think it belongs in this category.
I actually have this a bit higher on my list. I tend to agree with you that it is a very strange addition to an Oscar nomination list. But at the same time, when it came down to, for me, the like, kind of the last three or four movies, I just said, what did the best at what it was trying to do? And I think this movie, it's not this highfalutin dramatic fare that we typically see in the Oscar Best Picture race. But overall, I thought they did a very solid job of making a good summer blockbuster movie. So it's ranked a slightly higher on my list.
Okay, so what's your number 10?
So my number 10, and this should come as no surprise to people who have seen me talk about this particular director before, was Bugonia. And, maybe I prejudiced it a little bit going in because I'm just not a big fan of this guy's movies. But I did not see much there that interested me. For
Mhm.
most of the movie, not much is happening. She's kind of holed up in this basement. I find the editing of his movies sometimes a little off-putting. Like there isn't much continuity sometimes between scenes and even between shots. And there was a lot of that in this movie. And then the whole time, I mean, without giving too much away, because it's a fairly recent movie that people maybe haven't seen, but the ending was just so obvious because if it didn't have that ending, then what the fuck was the point in the whole movie in the first place? That there was just nothing at all keeping me interested. I was not in suspense at any point in this movie. So for me, I mean, I enjoyed the performances. So, not to only shit on the movie, I enjoyed the performances from the two leads, but yeah, it was definitely number 10 on my list.
Man, I actually thought this might have been the one of your Yorgos Lanthimos to break through to you, but
No, the only one that I actually like would say full on I enjoyed was the one with Olivia Colman. What's it? The
oh, the
favorite.
favorite.
Yeah. The favorite is definitely my favorite of his movies. That one actually did break through, but the rest, no.
Yeah, I have this much higher, and yeah, we're just never gonna agree on Yorgos Lanthimos movies, it seems.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, it's basically Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons locked in a basement for most of the movie, and I found that really compelling just because there's two amazing dynamic actors and just the chemistry they had on screen and the interplay they had, where Jesse Plemons is this like um, total conspiracy theorist
Yeah.
and uh, believes like basically every conspiracy theory he's ever found on the internet. He's secluded. His only friend is his autistic cousin, and he kidnaps Emma Stone, who is the head of a pharmaceutical company, and he believes that she's an alien and that she's trying to take over the world. So yeah, the plot was a little predictable, as you say, but I was just captivated by the performances.
As I said, I did enjoy the performances. I just didn't think they were unfortunately leading anywhere. Like there were no stakes in this movie for me because I could see everything coming a mile away. So
Okay.
anyway, how about your number nine?
Number nine, I have The Secret Agent.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And I watched this just let's see, I watched 2 days ago. So 3 nights ago I saw The Secret Agent. And yeah, I don't know if I just didn't get it or what it was trying to say. And, I'm not, obviously, as you know, and anybody that's watched this for any amount of time knows that I'm not opposed to watching a movie with subtitles. I usually put subtitles on even if it's in English, so I can pay more attention to the dialogue. But I thought it was overly long. I actually had similar complaints that you did about Begonia. Nothing really happened until like an hour and a half in.
Hmm.
There was some stuff that didn't really make sense. And then I thought, and especially, I wasn't really impressed with Wagner Moore's performance. And everybody, all the reviews I read, first of all, it has a 98 on Rotten Tomatoes, and
Hmm.
everybody's saying that his performance was like this transcendent, like crazy career-breaking performance. And I didn't really feel it. I didn't feel really any emotions watching this movie, and it was almost 3 hours long. And especially in comparison to other Brazilian movies that have come out, because I have become a fan of Brazilian cinema, especially like way back in the day, City of God in 2002 is one of my favorite movies, and that one that came out, I'm still here.
No, that was Argentinian.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Still, yeah, military dictatorships taking
Yes.
over South
Yeah.
America. Yeah, my bad. Um, okay, so South American film I've become a fan
Yeah.
of. But yeah, it did not capture me in any way. I was just waiting for it to end, and then I was hoping everything would come together at the end, but it kind of didn't. It just kind of left you being like, huh, okay, that happened.
Right. I think I definitely have this higher. There were a number of things about it that I did like, but it is interesting that you mentioned I'm Still Here because I'm Still Here last year, I'm pretty sure for me was number one. That I ended up having it number one on my power rankings, and I really liked it because you're right. In many ways, they do talk about the same sort of themes. They're both, 1970s military dictatorships, just one's in Brazil, one's in Argentina, and they both kind of go through the way those were so just personally destructive in people's lives. And they also both had a flash forward coda at the end of the movies. It's just, I thought the one in I'm Still Here actually really added to the story. Whereas I don't think that the coda in The Secret Agent really added anything to the story. The sort of flash forward to more modern times didn't really do anything. And so I wasn't quite sure why they added it. And I think your criticism is right that it was overly long at times and kind of dragged on. That said, I still did enjoy a bunch of aspects of it, and I think I did enjoy Wagner Morris' performance a bit more than you. So I have this one a bit higher.
Yeah, it says political thriller, and I was not thrilled.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Thriller, I don't think is quite the right description of it. It's definitely a drama.
So what was yours?
So my number nine is the one I've seen most recently. I just saw it 2 nights ago, and this might be surprising that I have it this low, but I have Train Dreams here.
Hmm.
And for me, it's a beautifully shot movie. It's kind of a nice story, but it lets itself down from what it attempted to do for me in a few different ways. First of all, it's way too heavily reliant on the narration, to the point that it's just this narrator telling the story without us actually, it's a movie. We want to see the story, and we don't see much of the story. It's just the narrator telling us the whole time. And then the lead character, I just, what was the character? He had no character arc to me. This movie supposedly spans about 40 years. He looks exactly the same at the beginning of the movie as he does at the end of the movie. So even there, like, there's no, physical maturation really, but also no kind of, I just didn't know what the character's arc or story was. It was this beautiful look at kind of the wilderness in North America and how that wilderness was changed and progress and development and all that stuff I enjoyed. I just thought the overall actual story at the heart of it really kind of fell flat for me.
Yeah, it's based on a novella, and that is painfully evident. And
Mm.
as you said, the narration by the guy that plays Coach Yost in Remember the Titans.
Oh yes.
Even though
Yes.
he's not a character in the movie, he's just the narrator, which I
Yeah.
also found to be weird. But yeah, you can tell it's just from third person omniscient. But again, it just seems like he's reading passages from the novella.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, yeah, the best part was definitely the cinematography and the
Mhm.
landscapes and seeing the majesty of this untouched wilderness that's being demolished, and the ravishing of it during the Great War, and then all the way up through the space age. We're following this guy's whole life, and I always like Felicity Jones. I thought she was fine in it
Mhm.
when she was in it. William H. Macy did a good job in his role. I think he kind of stole the show. And yeah, Joel Edgerton was fine for what he was asked to do here. And so I actually just wound up listening to an interview with him on Bill Maher's podcast a couple days ago, where they got into Train Dreams. And I always forget how how much of just a deep, deep Australian accent Joel Edgerton has naturally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was read the novella a couple of years ago, and I always wanted to date Train Dreams. This is funny, but I mean, English and Australian people just do great American accents because they grew up with American TV. But anyway, they got into it a little bit and like what the movie meant and how it was just about certain themes and stuff like that. But if an actor has to go on somebody's podcast and explain the movie, then they're not doing a good job in
Mm.
the so I appreciate it a little more after listening to the interview, but that should never be the
Yeah.
case.
Yeah.
So that Train Dreams is my number eight. So
Oh, okay. Right. Okay. So yeah, so I wasn't way off then having it that low. Okay, so then my number eight was your number 10, and that's F1. So that's where I slotted in F1 just because of the issues I had with the other two. That F1 again, yeah, it's not, it's maybe aiming a little lower than the others in terms of it's not trying to have any important message. It's not trying to do too much in terms of theme and character development. Although I actually thought the character work in F1 was pretty decent.
mhm.
Um, but overall, I thought it just succeeded at most of the things it tried to do and was just a generally entertaining movie. So that's why I have it at 8.
Yep, fair enough. So just right on the number seven then. Excuse me. I have Marty Supreme there.
So do I. That's exactly
Yeah.
where I Party Supreme. Yeah.
So I missed this in theaters and I wasn't really in a hurry to watch it until I saw it was nominated for Best Picture, and then I realized that I had to watch it because I just wasn't interested in watching a movie about ping pong. But it turns out it's not about ping pong like at all.
No, no.
Like that's the frame for this story. It's really more about obsession and how this guy just becomes a total piece of shit in pursuit of his dreams. But like I did enjoy the script, and Chalamet was great as he always is. He always picks good projects ever since he was a kid. Uh, and I like the cross talking and how frantic the movie was, how everybody was talking over one another, how everybody in the movie was gaslighting one another.
Yeah,
The why I had it so low though is because again, it didn't really move me in any way. The performances were fine. It was kind of all over the place too, the plot,
yeah.
and I like the ending. I don't want to spoil it, but it's like one of those where you get what you need, not what you want. And yeah, Chalamet was good. The whole cast, top to bottom, was solid. Penn performance was actually really good
Right.
as this redneck. If I didn't know he was, I looked at the cast before I started watching the movie. If I didn't know he was in it, he would be unrecognizable. Penn is obviously the magician that's been one of the most famous magicians in the world for the past 40 years or so. But he's
Yeah.
lost 100 pounds, and he had this like real tan, and he put on this redneck accent. I thought he really did a good job.
Yeah, there were definitely a lot of things that I enjoyed about this movie, as you say, kind of the frantic pace of some of the scenes, just the way some of those scenes were shot and the chaos of them, and then yeah, Chalamet's performance. I thought there were definitely parts in the movie though that, despite that frantic pace, that kind of dragged on. It was just like, okay, where is this going? I just didn't know. It was just kind of one thing after another of him just trying to scam his way through life. And you said he sort of becomes a piece of shit in furtherance of his goals. I think he's just always a piece of shit. Like I think his character,
Yeah,
that's just his natural default is to try to
yeah,
scam people and try to get one over on everyone else because he's just a selfish bastard. And I think that in a way took away the emotional impact because I didn't really care what happened to this character because of it, because he's such an unlikable character.
yeah.
But that said, yeah, there were definitely some really fun things about this, and I actually enjoyed like kind of seeing the ping pong world of the 1960s or whatever. I thought that it was kind of a fun little world that you don't get much insight into. But yeah, seven is about right for me, and that's probably higher than I would have thought I would have a movie that has Kevin O'Leary in a prominent role, because that guy's just an awful person. But
But I mean, to his credit, he played himself, and he didn't need to act, and that was really good casting.
yeah.
So at six, I have Frankenstein.
So do I. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Okay, so we probably just flipped Secret Agent Bugonia then. Because yeah, I have Frankenstein at six as well.
All right, I've taken the lead on up till now. You want to just start with Frankenstein then?
Sure. So Frankenstein, we've talked about this a little bit before. I think this is probably the most beautiful movie that was made this year, just in terms of like cinematography, the shots, the kind of the every frame a painting kind of thing. What Guillermo del Toro did in the just the visuals in this movie, I thought was spectacular, and the set design and the costumes and everything. I also really enjoyed Oscar Isaac's performance, where he kind of ran the gamut of a whole bunch of different emotions. And I just thought it kind of really immersed us in this kind of crazy world. Where the reason why I didn't have it a bit higher is just that, you're kind of beholden, even though it wasn't note by note Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, you're kind of beholden to that story. And I'm just not sure that there was that, you know, there weren't that many places for the story to go. But overall, I've really enjoyed this movie. So
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. I agree that it was just amazing. The set design, costume design, the makeup on Jacob Elordi who played the monster. Uh, I did love Oscar Isaac's performance. I thought he hammed it up big
he
time.
did.
It's
He did.
just just uh, just overtaking the screen whenever he was on there. But that's what the role called for because he is just
Yeah, see, I agree. Yeah.
such an eccentric mad science, the OG mad scientist,
Yeah.
Victor Frankenstein.
Yeah,
And
and it's a monster movie. I mean, it's a classed up version of a monster movie, but it's a monster movie. So yeah,
yeah, exactly. And I thought it was so true to the spirit of Mary Shelley's novel in a way that many of the previous adaptations have not been.
yeah,
But the thing about Guillermo del Toro is he's never going to make the monster the bad guy.
right.
And he went out of his way to make sure that Jacob Elordi's the monster was just like sweetest person, creature, whatever, in this movie. And so he tweaked it to make Victor, who, the old saying about Frankenstein is that Victor Frankenstein is the monster. So, and really they bash you over the head with that message in this
Yes.
one,
Yeah.
but not to the point where you're like rolling your eyes. You're like, oh Jesus, and like there's a real message movie here. But
Yeah.
yeah, I really really enjoyed it, and I thought Jacob Elordi actually showed his acting chops instead of just being a pretty face for once. So
Yeah. Well, he definitely wasn't a pretty face in this one. All right. So now, yeah, so that's halfway through. Um, so you, I believe, are still on medication and can't drink, but I'm gonna have a quick little drink here. Um, because yeah, why not? So I wasn't really sure what I was gonna do, but I'm gonna do kind of a modified version. Funny enough, when I moved into this new apartment last fall, in the kitchen, there were a bunch of drink recipes on the wall. And so I'm doing kind of a modified version of one of them, which is just kind of a different kind of G&T, but with maple syrup. So it's going to be like a little maple G&T basically. So
Canadian twist.
yeah, a little bit of Canadian twist. So what it requires is get some ice here first. And I've tried this before and it's actually really good. So there we go. Pop some ice cubes in there and then use about a an ounce and a half of gin. I will pour that in there. There's the ounce and the half. And then you need, and I'm going local, so it's just a Canadian Georgian Bay gin. So why not? Um, and then you need half an ounce of lemon juice. And once again, I've just got one of these bad boys instead of an actual proper lemon. So there we go, about half an ounce of lemon juice. And then half an ounce of maple syrup. Oh, and what I forgot to bring is something to stir it up with because the maple syrup probably needs to be stirred up. Uh-oh. Oh well. Hopefully it won't be too much at the bottom there. So yeah, some maple syrup. And then yeah, and then you just pour in a bunch of tonic and there's your drink. Oh, I'm definitely gonna need to mix this up. All right. I'm just gonna have to use a pen, I guess, because I'm up here at my desk and I don't have anything else. And yeah, you can already see the maple syrup just dripping down to the bottom there. That. Oh, I know what I've got. There we go. All right. I've got this funny thing that I've had forever. It's a letter opener that I've always loved. I've had this since I was a little kid. So it's a little sword letter opener. So I will use that to start my drink and have the drink, and then we can move into our top five. Yes, this is actually delicious. Oh yeah. Yeah, I highly recommend that to anybody. Very, very tasty. So, top five. Did we
All
flip
right,
them? Is this where you have Begonia?
it is.
Okay, yeah. So we just flipped Begonia and Secret Agent then. Interesting. Or oh no, you had Begonia, you had Secret Agent at nine, right?
Yeah.
I had Begonia at 10. Okay.
So yeah, big Yorgos Lanthimos fan, and he's basically tied to the hip with Emma Stone these days.
Yeah.
And so yeah, big fan of their team ups. I've been a fan of Yorgos's since The Lobster, which I know you just absolutely
Yeah.
hate. But yeah, I've liked all of his films, some more than others. Begonia is not my favorite. I think it's actually probably in the lower third of his of his catalog right now. But I still thought it was very engaging. His frenetic editing style I actually like, where you find it kind of off-putting.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, so and then like I said, Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone together in a basement for ha over half the movie is very compelling to me.
Yeah, yeah, and I've already said what I think about Begonia and Secret Agent. I've kind of already shared my thoughts on that as well. So yeah, I mean, I guess the reason why I have it top five, Secret Agent, is just because of as I said, some of the historical stuff. I liked the bit about the the people who were kind of on the outs and hiding from the regime. They're the kind of the underground resistance because they weren't the kind of people you expect. Like they weren't very organized. It was just kind of this loose group of people who didn't really know what they're doing. And that's actually often true about groups like this, especially under repressive regimes in the 70s. And so I kind of appreciated the just the veracity of a lot of that stuff. So that's why I had this higher, even though I do take your criticisms about it being a little over long and drawn out and you know quite sure what's happening for but the first hour of the movie. It's definitely true.
All right, so number four, I have One Battle After Another.
So do I. Wow, we are really in sync this time, actually.
Yeah,
This is surprising. I mean, we're often in sync, but we're really in sync this time.
yeah, it's never
Wow.
been
Okay.
this. Yeah, it's never been this lined up. This is bizarre.
No.
Okay, so action thriller with a lot of comedy mixed in. Paul Thomas Anderson, written and directed. Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, Tiana Taylor, Regina Hall, Chase Infinity, who I'd never heard of before this movie, but man, she was fantastic. Uh, the reason I didn't have it any higher is because it just bashes you over the head with message from beginning to end, and I'm never a fan of that. But I did love the performances, the direction, the comedy, the action, everything lined up. It's not a perfect film by any means, but I it was definitely worth the price of admission to go see it in Dolby because again the action scenes were awesome and it was hilarious in parts where you really wouldn't laugh at these kind of
Yeah.
situations. But yeah, it was highly entertaining and definitely worth all the praise it's getting.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all that. I mean, the performances alone were fantastic, as you say. I really loved the just the kind of different aspects of it. The the again the kind of underground movement that sort of knows what they're doing but doesn't really know what they're doing, and they're trying to cause destruction, but they don't really have achievable ends, and that's always kind of interesting and fun. Um, I really did enjoy what the movie was ultimately about, which is Leonardo DiCaprio and his daughter and their relationship, and basically him trying to find a way to allow her to find her own rebellion and her own path and all that. The reason why I don't have it in the top three is that I think, as you said, it's not a perfect movie. At times, it kind of meandered getting to that core story, and it wasn't didn't come through as clearly in some parts of the movie.
Mhm.
But overall, still, yeah, very enjoyable movie.
All right, top three. Let's see if I don't know, man. I don't know if we're gonna line up. All,
Yeah, well, I don't know because I don't even know what I've lined up. As I, I told you before we started recording here, I moved these three around in every order, like every week. One I'll jump ahead and I'll think about it some more and be like, oh no, I really like that one, and then I think about another one. And so I think I will just say there is like a clear line between these three and the rest of them for me. I
I
think
completely.
these three were clearly the three best movies of the year, and yeah, like what order amongst these three I have a really hard time with.
Yeah, I completely agree. They are definitely a tier above the rest. And so my number three is the one I saw most recently and the one that you've been raving about since you first saw it, which is Sentimental Value.
I actually have it at number three and my final list as well. This is crazy how much we have the same numbers here.
Yeah, like I said, you've been hyping it up for months. Did you see it at TIFF or just when it came out in theaters?
No, just when it came out in theaters.
Okay. Yeah, so I was finally able to rent it for a paltry 4.99 rather than the 19.99 they try to get you to pay for everything else
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
nominated. But so it's a Norwegian movie, and it's basically just about a broken family trying to put the pieces together, which has been done a million times. It sounds really generic, but it's the acting and the writing that really sets this movie apart from just normal family drama.
yeah.
And so it's directed by Joachim Trier, uh, and Stellan Skarsgård is the most well-known star. Well, yeah, no,
And
definitely the most
and
well-known
Elle
star.
Elle Fanning as
Elle
well. Yeah.
Fanning's in there, but she's not as well known yet as Stellan Skarsgård. But he's nominated for Best Supporting Actor because he's the patriarch in the family. But let's see who are the names of the actresses. Okay, yeah, Renate Rensiv and Inga Ipsotter Lilias. Sorry,
Yeah,
were both really amazing as his two daughters,
yeah.
and one's an actress, one's a psychologist, and Stellan Skarsgård is a Hollywood director, and he's an alcoholic, estranged from his family, and this happens in like the first 5 minutes, so it's not much of a spoiler. But the thing that brings it back together is their mom's funeral, and they're fighting over this house that has so much history because it's been in the family for 3 generations, I believe, and so and just family drama ensues. It's don't want to explain it plot point by plot point, but it definitely deserves all the praise it's getting. It's 90% in Norwegian, but again, doesn't bother me at all. I'm a sophisticated individual. But yeah, just the acting was astounding, and Stellan definitely deserved that Golden Globe that he got earlier this year.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's as you say, it's a story that's kind of been told many times before, like an estranged, broken family trying to put the pieces back together again. And so it is hard to explain if you haven't seen it, just what it is about this movie that makes it so good. As you say, it's the writing and it's the acting, but I think it's the way that they just make everything, every scene flows so perfectly from the next in an emotional line. It's not just, okay, here's a scene, oh, here's another argument, here's another argument. The emotions flow kind of perfectly from one scene to the next, where you can kind of follow each character. And it's not just, it's not just the patriarchs emotional line. It's all kind of four of the main characters, the two daughters, and then Elle Fanning as well, as they kind of go through the entire movie, and you see them in their kind of roller coaster of emotions, and it all just fits, and it's all seamless, and it's all perfect. It's so incredible. And the other thing that is kind of interesting about it is that it's got this kind of quirky framing mechanism where the beginning and the end, it introduces the movie almost as a biography of the house
Mhm.
that they're living in. And I just thought that was really interesting, and I had never seen anything like that before too. So right off the bat, it kind of grabs you as, okay, yes, this is a family drama, but oh, this is interesting. This is an interesting way to look at it, that it's the house kind of almost telling the story of the family that grew up in it. And I thought that was kind of cool.
Definitely. So yeah, top two now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you take this one?
Sure. So, yeah, again, went back and forth a million times. Uh, but I'm gonna go with Sinners here at number two. And is that what you've got as well? Or okay, that's unbelievable. It's so uncanny. Um, again, I could have any of these three in any order. Sinners, we've talked about a million times. I still remember back because Sinners was the one that came out the longest to go. It came out in spring or very early spring, maybe even late winter of last year. And I remember you saw it before I did, and you sent me a message basically saying something along the lines of, um, "This is probably already the best movie of the year." And I was kind of skeptical at first because I'd only seen the trailers and it looked fun and interesting, but I wasn't quite sure what to think about it. I'm like, really? Best movie? You think this is going to be a, and you're like, oh yeah, this will definitely be a contender for Best Picture. And then the moment I saw it, I'm not sure if I wrote you back and said you were right or not, but the moment I saw it, I knew instantly what you were talking about just because it is it's such a great movie where you're so grounded in the world. The characters are all great. And then it's the music is fantastic and how the music is part of the story, but then it also all feeds in well with the themes about ownership and culture and all that kind of stuff. And it just all blends together really well to make one of the more original movies we've had in a while, and certainly one of the more both commercially and critically successful original movies of that kind of fits those two criteria that we've had in a while. So, yeah, Sinners loved it. For anybody who hasn't seen it, I'm sure by now you people have heard the story, but it's Michael B. Jordan plays twins in the I want to say 1920s in the South, somewhere in the South, and they've
Early
come.
30s.
Oh yeah, early 30s. That's right. Yeah, because they would have been hanging around with Capone, and so they come back from time in Chicago where they've been hanging out as gangsters, and they sort of want to revitalize their community in a way by starting this and also kind of make some money for themselves, but by starting this kind of juke joint and getting the community together and have a good a place for everybody to come and have a good time. But then there are these vampires who show up and keep taking over and telling them that you can everybody's a community there amongst them and they want them to come in. And anyway, that there's so much more and it's hard to explain, but that's just a brief overview for anyone who still at this point hasn't seen it or doesn't know what it's about.
Yeah, Ryan Coogler just keeps elevating his game every time
Hmm.
out. And yeah, this is definitely his magnum opus so far. And the way he was able to blend so many different cultural themes from the Delta Jim Crow era to
Yeah.
the Gaelic Irish and their history and how they've been treated over the millennia and how like two oppressed people come together in different ways of forming community, let's
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've talked about it since April when it came
Yeah.
out, and I didn't think anything was gonna dethrone it until our number one just a couple months ago.
Yeah. So number one, that leaves obviously for those of you keeping track, that leaves Hamlet, which Hamnet. Sorry, did I say Hamlet? Basically the same thing. Um, which is, yeah, interestingly enough, that's our number one for both of us. And we've talked about this is just such a beautiful story with at its heart just an unbelievable tale of loss and grief, but also kind of perseverance in the face of that loss and grief, all told around the story of Shakespeare and his creation of the play Hamlet. But again, and I've mentioned this before to anybody who hasn't seen it, for a lot of the movie, you don't really even know that it's Shakespeare if you didn't
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that
yeah.
going in. It's just a story. It's a story about two people who fall in love they start a family, and then them dealing with the trials and tribulations of life after that. And yeah, it's just so beautifully done.
Yeah, and there's definitely hints here and there that he
Hmm.
is Shakespeare, especially when once Paul Mescal plays Shakespeare and Jesse Buckley plays his wife, who's not named Anne Hathaway. It's Agnes.
And yes, yeah,
Agnes, yeah, like the beef. But there's yeah, especially when he's writing and he's all frustrated, and there's like little passages from Romeo and Juliet, and there's like little tiny hints there, but they don't call him William Shakespeare until like 15 minutes before the film ends,
yeah,
when they're in London looking for him. And yeah, I mean, Jessie Buckley, obviously a career making performance that
yeah.
she's nominated for Best Actress, and definitely the
Just
front runner, already won the
yeah,
Golden Globe.
overwhelming favorite right now. Yeah.
And man, so yeah, I was going after I saw Hamnet. I didn't want to be in theaters. I didn't want to be a prisoner of the moment, and I still like I was vacillating back and forth between this and Sinners for so long. And I'd seen Sinners twice already by that point, and I was like, I don't know. There's Sinners is still just such an amazing cinematic achievement. But I saw Hamnet once again a couple weeks ago, and
Oh, did you?
just
Okay.
waited back and forth, and I found it more emotionally impactful the second time, Hamnet. And
Interesting. I definitely need to rewatch it because I've
what
only seen it that one time.
because once I knew what was coming and the story and the buildup and like how happy everybody was before this great loss,
Mhm.
like it really hit me. I wasn't like sobbing, but my chest was like really heavy, especially during the climax when Hamlet's performed for the first time and Angus is in the front row. And yeah, definitely needed a tissue or two once the credits started rolling. And Chloe Zhao, the director, did such a magnificent job. Natural lighting what added a lot to
Mhm.
this movie
Yeah,
because it was all candles and sunlight. And not just that, but she allowed so many moments to just sit there and breathe and really just feel the grief, feel the sorrow of these characters, feel the relationship, feel like you're actually part of this family. And it's just so it's definitely the most emotionally taxing movie I've seen this year by a mile. And
Mhm.
it's not what I want to watch a bunch, but I had to go back and rewatch it just because I was still so torn between this and Sinners. But
Right.
yeah, Hamnet takes the day for me just because it does what great film is supposed to do, which is just make you feel, and boy, did it.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. I can't really add too much more to that. That really nails it.
And yeah, I remember you saw it before me and you were praising it and not wanting to give too much away, obviously, but I was hesitant to even see it originally because I had seen Jesse Buckley in a couple of comedies, most notably Wicked Little Letters.
But
Is that what it was
yeah,
called?
yeah, love that movie. Yeah.
Um, and Paul Mescal I've only seen in Gladiator 2, which was god awful. So I remember asking you when we were discussing it for the first time, I was like, "Oh wait, Paul Mescal can actually act?" And you're like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, okay, so it was just all Ridley Scott's fault." So yeah, he redeemed himself like 1,000 times over. His career is super bright, and so is Jesse Buckley's. And yeah, definitely worth the number one spot.
Absolutely.
So with that, we'll see you next time for our full Oscar predictions. We're gonna talk about what will win and what we think should win, as we did for the past couple years. Last year we were on YouTube, and before that we just did this on Spotify. So there's actually 24 categories this year, but not the usual 23.
Hmm.
And so we'll run through those as efficiently as possible, not try to take up too much of your time with our blabbering. But hope you enjoyed this one. Again, totally subjective, but and it just blew my mind that we were in such so simpatico for this year.
Yeah, that's rarely happened before. But obviously, all that to say, especially with how much in accord we were on those last few, if there's anybody who's out there wondering, okay, I haven't seen any of them this year. What should I see before the Oscars? See the top three. If you can only see
Yeah.
or see any of the top three, if that's all you have time for before the Oscars, because obviously we're in agreement, clearly the best movies.
Yes, and three completely different movies as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So it runs the gamut. All right, so yeah, we'll see you next time for our the official Oscars preview. I'm Zach Miller, he's Martin Cooke, and we will see you next time on the Unsolicited Film Reviews podcast.
Bye, everyone.